My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education Research Center, and today I'm joined by Mike Hopkins. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me just start off by asking you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Mike Hopkins. I am a 1994 graduate, Murray State University. Little bit different than maybe what some of the current students would be enjoying at Murray State, but I graduated with a degree in mathematics. I very quickly moved into a career in engineering for the manufacturing industry, and then had an opportunity in the late 90s to pursue really my passion, which was software development for private industry. Did that for a few years, and then was, I say given an opportunity, but I was ultimately downsized by a very large multinational corporation, which led to an opportunity really to found DEVsource. And I'm often asked why the name DEVsource. It's because we started the company as a software development company, so development source. And that was in 2001. I would say over the next 8 or 9 years, we increasingly became more of a technology services company. We were continuing to do software development, which ultimately technology services led us into networking and server management. And of course, even in this, I say short time since 2000, let's say 9 or 10, the industry has changed dramatically. I mean, with the rise of the cloud and security being at the forefront. So our company looks dramatically different, obviously, than when we started. We no longer do any software development, but we're completely 100% network services and all that entails. We're what we call a managed service provider, or MSP. So our job is to be the IT department for some businesses, or provide co-managed sort of IT services and everything in between, really.
Well, for you, your career path really is part of the development story of DEVsource. So maybe instead of asking you to share a little bit of your career path, because you sum that up a little bit right there, share a couple of cool stories, whether they're networking or cybersecurity related, that you've seen over the years through DEVsource. Obviously, you don't have to use names of companies, but
Sure.
But just kind of examples, because you've seen it all.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We have in all these years seen it all. Really, these security incidents really were not a thing until very, relatively to the history of the company, very recently. And so, and these are, of course, unfortunately, the most interesting circumstances we get into. And in fact, the one I'm going to tell you about, I've actually in the process of finishing a book about it, a short book that we'll use internally for sales and marketing and so forth. It tells an interesting business story. And so what happened, it actually didn't happen directly to one of our clients, but as is often the case, that when 2 or more parties are involved, there's an opportunity for the bad guys to slip into that conversation. And so this circumstance was, our client was the purchaser of some products, very expensive products, and the seller, or the vendor in this case, their email became compromised. Classic story, insecure email server. Bad guy gets to then read every conversation. Bad guy proceeds to register a domain name that looks identical to the victim, with the exception of maybe changed an L to a 1 or vice versa, so that it's indistinguishable to a glance. Waits for a moment in which the purchaser, our client, says, "We'd like X number of this thing." And the seller, the person, the company providing the goods, that message is intercepted. Immediately, the bad guy sends a reply all to the buyer and says, "Got your message, wire the money." And this was multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was not insignificant. This was a huge amount of money. And the buyer, accustomed to getting these kinds of messages, does it, calls the bank and does it. And In the postmortem of this, there were some issues that were the bank, but bottom line is the money was wired out, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. A couple of days go by and the buyer hasn't heard from the legitimate seller saying, hey, we got your money, product on the way. And then, it's discovered shortly thereafter, and FBI is involved. The bank that did the wiring is involved. The money has already been wired through multiple accounts. I mean, it stopped in the US and then immediately hopped out of the US. And at that point, there's no getting it back. So there were multiple failures there. Ultimately, the responsibility or the point of attack was the lack of security on the email server. And, there's a lot of measures that can be put in place. And, unfortunately, that company didn't have it. And then, unfortunately, our client was a victim as well, because they're the ones that wired the money. And so lessons learned there is, you have to harden all those things like your email servers. Anymore, we say the weakest point in the wall of defense at our clients or anywhere, any business, is the people there. And so you would say, well, with appropriate training, you could have recognized that that was not a legitimate sender. It is very difficult. And you yourself have probably seen examples of this where these domains are registered that are very deceptive. So a lot of lessons are there. Sadly, not an uncommon story. I'm sure you've heard similar stories. The only thing that really changes about those stories is the amount, how much was lost, how much was recovered. And so it was such an intriguing story and really sad story for the business involved. As I said, I've decided to write that up as a useful piece. Obviously names changed to protect the victims, but and there are so many stories like that. Ransomware. We've had not clients. Companies become clients because they were hammered by ransomware, didn't know what to do, couldn't pay the ransom, and so it's really shockingly dangerous place right now, despite all the efforts. And I know you guys in your department talk about these things daily, but it is real. Some people, and unfortunately, Dr. Ramage, a lot of business owners don't believe that the threat is real until, sadly it happens to them or someone very close to them. So, and unfortunately, and I mentioned this in my book, business owners who have been attacked and, have a tendency to feel like, I don't want people to know this. I don't want people to think I hate to use the word stupid enough or just ignorant enough, whatever the word is, that I was susceptible to this. And unfortunately are hesitant to talk about it. They don't want to tell their business peers, hey, you won't believe what happened to me. I lost, $400,000 because I messed up. And the reality is we need those real stories because those people have credibility and people go, oh, wow, is there something I should be doing? Right.
Yeah, I actually think that's right. There's a lot of embarrassment when really there shouldn't be necessarily.
Right.
Well, I appreciate those stories, and you're right. There's those stories are way too common, maybe more common than I would like for them to be, but it happens, and I'm glad that there's resources like you and DEVsource to help them. Well, let me ask a next question. For a student that is watching this, that is listening, that's just getting started in their IT career, what's a tip that you would give them to have a career like what you have had?
Yeah, well, for sure. Obviously, do well in school and pay attention and take your courses seriously. And that being said, being in the industry as long as I have and having hired many both students and older folks looking for a career, the number one thing for me is, what have you done? Oh, good. You have a 3.9. That's great. I don't want to dismiss that or, it's what have you done? I don't want to say anyone can go and take classes and pass tests, but we look for those students who get their hands dirty. While a student, I would say find an opportunity to work, whether it's as an internship, sort of a formal intern. And I think your program requires an internship. That's to me, that's the minimum. Everyone is doing that. Set yourself apart by doing something not everyone is doing, whether that's contributing to some project online, and the opportunities to do that are immeasurable. There's you can't find something you like, start your own. Look for part-time opportunities with a company like DEVsource, where you're going to come in here. And we've hired many people out of your program over the years that while they were students, they were here doing hands-on work, and then hearing more senior guys and ladies talk about issues in their career path. And so that is extraordinarily valuable. And I can tell you, when I look at 10 resumes, grade point average is probably not the number one thing I look at. It's important and it indicates something about the student, but it is, what have you done? And attitude, likability, humility to say, I don't know everything. And in fact, I'm eager to learn. Teach me, willingness to learn, willingness to try new things, no fear of, stepping out and failing. And so find a thing you love and become really great at it. Just the things you're passionate about, and it's like, how do you turn that in? How do you turn that passion or hobby or whatever you want to call it into a career? And that's really the secret sauce is find something you love and do it and be great at it.
I like the experience piece. You just really can't, to me, replace experience with anything. And I really, that's a really good advice there. Well, let me ask one last question. And this is kind of contrary to the, not necessarily contrary, but a different part of experience. But students always ask me, what certifications should I take? Should I do certifications? If so, which ones? How do you look at those when you're hiring?
Yeah, sure. So I treat certifications, and you kind of alluded to this. I mean, it can be a very positive thing. It can be a neutral thing. I don't know that it could be a negative thing. But over the many years, having interviewed many people from all walks of life and educational background, there are some who have an abundance of certifications, but no practical experience. I almost always would rank practical experience over certifications. That being said, certifications are amazing and can be amazing to augment some experience. Now, I acknowledge there are some circumstances in which a student perhaps cannot, for whatever reason, get appropriate experience. And so pursue certifications just to continue learning. And that's perfectly fine. I see no issue with that whatsoever. I would say for me, I mean, in terms of which ones, we prefer Microsoft-centric certifications because that we're a Microsoft partner in many different domains. And that obviously is what we look for. And then Cisco certifications as well. While those are both vendor specific, the principles and the concepts that would be learned through that translate very well to other domains. And, a lot of times I think your employer is, if they're the kind of employer that we are, in which you want your people to pursue, to continue to educate themselves, they're going to guide you and say, just like if you were at DEVsource, oh, you want to pursue certifications, that's awesome. And in fact, we'll pay for it as long as it's in this framework, whether that's a Microsoft Azure certification or, Windows Server and so forth, Cisco Meraki, all the products that we sell, service, and support. But again, just to summarize there, I'm not negative about certifications, but I would rank experience more highly. But I think those are amazing augmentation for that experience, because there's some learning that you just don't get unless you're doing some book work. I mean, you can learn a lot on the job, but you still need particularly advanced topics. So, and not everyone has a mentor. We try to use a mentor system here where a more senior person mentors a younger junior person, and a lot can be learned that way. But they definitely have their place. I'm not negative about them, but they do have their place for sure.
I agree with that. That's good feedback and good advice, I think. Well, let me just finish up by saying anything else that you would want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just say, and I do fortunately get to talk to a lot of students through various channels. And I always tell young people that if you enjoy this sort of thing and you wake up every day excited about a career, whether it's in cybersecurity, network management, there's so much. When I was a young man coming out of college, it felt like you could almost know everything about computing. I know that's not true, but it's so diverse now. The opportunities are so massive to specialize. And guess what? There are companies willing to pay you to do that. And the demand, there's been some layoffs in big tech lately, but that's big tech. And there's plenty of opportunities to work that are not for Amazon or directly for Microsoft. I mean, there's just so much opportunity that I tell young people, if you want a career that will always challenge you, will always be growing, you should be able to make a great living. It's in our field. Just find the thing you love, be awesome at it, and be prepared for opportunity, because it will be there and you have to take it. And so I wake up every day. I'm still at my age. I've been out of college. I don't too many years to think about. I still wake up every day, sometimes, and I tell my employees this and they laugh. It'll be Sunday and I'll be like, man, I can't wait for Monday. I love my weekends. Don't get me wrong. I like doing my own things, but I get so excited about coming to work because we do so much to help so many companies. And I tell my employees, if you're not that way, let's have a conversation, because I need people here who love what they do. A lot of people, myself included, I go home at night and I don't have a great number of hobbies, but I still like working in tech, whether it's, researching something, playing with GPT-3 or, and my company's full of a lot of people like that. And your program is full of a lot of people like that. And so, and you can detect that passion. I tell you, Dr. Ramage, when I'm interviewing students or people looking to come to work here from other walks, a passionate technology enthusiast when you meet one. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I would just encourage all students to just really find your passion. And if you decide it's not in technology or some branch that's not, go find it, go do it. Don't, life's too short to be unhappy with your career choice or your educational choice. Go do something different and find it. But thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
That is great advice. And I have shared that in a different variation with students a lot, that if you love tech, this is a really fun field, and there's a lot of tech that you can pick from, find it and get passionate about it. And it's fun. It really is fun. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I really do appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ramage. We'll see you again. Thanks.
Thank you.